Very, very moving testimony there from Shubham Dwivedi's wife, saying that it is very, very critical, and we have shown Pakistan that India stands as one nation. Good afternoon. It is 1 minute past 4 p.m., and we have been continuously reporting India's strikes on Pakistan inside POJk as well as Pakistan's Punjab, taking out 10 members of the Jaish-e-Mohammed terrorist Masood Azhar's family, striking at the Lashkar headquarters in Muridke in Punjab, as well as the Jaish-affiliated bases in Bahawalpur, striking the bases where Ajmal Kasab and David Headley were trained. That briefing given by two women officers of the Indian military, along with the foreign secretary, an official associated with Operation Sindoor, which is what the operation has been called, telling me that this is not only a military response, but it is a signaling of new strategic resolve. And it is showing to Pakistan that India can act swiftly, surgically, and without apology. We have the details: 24 missile strikes on 9 terror target bases and 70 terrorists eliminated, among them 10 members of Masood Azhar, the Jaish-e-Mohammed chief's family. General Satish Dua, former general officer commanding of the 15th Corps, also the general who led the surgical strikes in the aftermath of the Uri terror attacks, is with us. Tavleen Singh, a veteran journalist whose column recently argued that the problems between India and Pakistan went well beyond Kashmir. Well, Tavleen, the Indian military certainly seemed to think so today, targeting Pakistan in Punjab. This is not a dispute over Jammu and Kashmir, dispute quote unquote, because it's a word Western media likes to play out. This is India's retaliation for terrorism. General Dua, your first thoughts. I don't think we should underemphasize the importance of targeting the Lashkar, for example, in Muridke, in Pakistan, Punjab, because as anyone who reports on Pakistan knows, Pakistan's Punjab is a dominant force. Its army is drawn in majority from there. Its politics is defined by there. Its money is all there. So when India hits with precision at bases inside Pakistan, Punjab, it is a huge statement to make. General Dua.
Barkha, I start with immense professional pride in the fact that today we have, India has hit across these significant targets in response to the carnage at Pahalgam 2 weeks ago. Now, when you talk about targeting, the targets by itself are also important, and so is the statement. When in 2016, when we had the terror struck at Uri, we launched shallow raids, what is now known as surgical strikes at multiple locations. In 2019, it was deep inside, a precision airstrike deep inside, beyond POK. But this time, the difference is that on both those occasions, the military response was launched as a surprise and then announced later. This time, the government announced a number of bold measures. The Indus Border Treaty suspension, the diplomatic measures, the economic measures, the political measures, all were announced and then implemented. But the military response, unlike the last time, which was a surprise, but this time it was announced. The Prime Minister announced, we will not only get those terrorists, but we will also strike at their backers, the word he used, basically meaning that we will strike at their terror ecosystem across the border itself. And that is exactly what has been done in early hours of this morning, because we have struck at the terrorist headquarters. All three major terrorist networks, their headquarters have been struck. What's more, you yourself mentioned that it goes beyond POK. It goes to wherever the terror headquarters are. In Punjab, Muridke is just 30 kilometers from Lahore, and Bahawalpur is 100 kilometers inside from the international border.
That's right.
And so the fact is that this is also a statement that goes out that not only have we hit these terror camps, but we retain the ability and the capacity and the resolve to do this. But I will end by saying that it is non-escalatory in nature. We did
Mm.
not, India did not strike any civilian targets, unlike what has happened in Punch Rajouri area. We've already seen 7 civilian deaths. Um, and secondly, we did not hit any military target. So it was non-escalatory in nature, saying thereby, now the onus of escalation rests on you.
Yeah, that's a really important point, that the onus of escalation is on Pakistan. At the moment, Pakistan is targeting civilian areas, villages along the line of control. And the Lieutenant Governor of Jammu and Kashmir has given orders now for those civilians to be pulled back from the front line. But those are some of the images. Artillery firing has returned to the line of control for the first time since 2003. But General Dua, obviously, Pakistan will not end its hit here. But the question that I have to ask you is, India has terror targets to hit in Pakistan. Pakistan will look to hit something, but there are no terror bases to hit in India. What should we be bracing ourselves for?
Before answering your question squarely, although I don't put it beyond Pakistan to hit something here and then say these are the terror bases, that they are there are Baloch rebels here or things like that. I mean, I don't put it beyond that. But see, answering your question seriously,
Yeah.
Pakistan cannot hit such targets. So, to my mind, the only targets that they can hit are military installations. That's what happened after Balakot.
Yeah.
They struck at some military headquarters and logistic locations very close to the LOC,
Mhm.
but there was not too much of damage, if at all. So that's a different point. The point is they may strike at this. The first step has already started, heating up the LOC. Like you said, in this Punch Rajouri area, it hasn't happened in 2 decades, RT duels. But that's what they've done, and so far only civilians are the casualties. So they are likely to strike at some military targets. That's a call that they will take.
Mm.
How much they will venture forward or not will also depend on a different dynamic, because Pakistan today, to my mind, does not have ammunition to wage conflict for a war. The recent reports have it, few days ago, it was that they have artillery ammunition only for 4 days of war. They do not have the money. Every month they depend on some foreign assistance, all of which will be called by US and others. All this will matter a lot. China's statement has, from Pakistan point of view, I would say has been a little lukewarm, because it actually in the end just talks about trying to reconcile between the two of us. So I think a lot of other factors will also be at play as to how Pakistan will respond further. But the last thing I would like to say is, it is in times like these when Pakistan is up against a hard place. Especially the military is in a very poor spot. Pakistan military is actually in a poor spot right now, and I feel that is something that we must play upon. We must try to make the military unpopular within Pakistan army. I beg your pardon, within
Within
the
Pakistan.
population of Pakistan, within Pakistan, and that's already started happening. This water crisis that has been created, the visuals of people walking across Chenab riverbed have already got sparked off protests in Sindh and other places. As you said, Punjab, that is Punjab in Pakistan, is the heartland of Punjab, and the farmer there has already been told not to sow water-intensive crops because water is going to be a problem. So, getting back to the point, I think uh, Pakistan army in times like this would like to do something that rallies the public around Pakistan, with Pakistan army, and to do that, India bashing is the best thing to do. So we'll have to wait and
Right.
watch.
Right. And that would be the question, Tavleen, that Asim Munir, who is beleaguered by Baluchistan, beleaguered by Imran Khan's popularity, would want to use this moment to rally the country behind him, because he was not a popular or a strong army chief. But that is not our concern. Our concern is that we have shown today that we can hit Pakistan. This has gone way further than what happened in Balakot, Murid ke Bahawalpur, and as General Dua said, Bahawalpur is 100 kilometers from from the border. Um, it's the first time since the 1971 war that it's been a tri-service operation, a very different kind of operation, using precision missile strikes and By the way, video upon video is being released. The images that you see on your screen have been released by the Indian military. These have been filmed. We are told the Prime Minister was watching the operation in real time. So everything has been recorded, and the army has released all of this footage of the different terror bases that they have targeted. It is a seminal moment. Tavleen, your thoughts?
I've been to Muridke. I don't know whether you have. It's not very far from Lahore. And in Muridke, when I went, actually, Hafiz Saeed was in residence. That's not just his headquarters. He actually lives there. And the thing that shocked me then was that he was under the protection of police or, paramilitaries, etc. And I couldn't get near the house in which he lived. And to tell you the truth, as somebody who lives in Bombay and who's been through, really one of the worst terrorist acts this country has seen, I am so happy that we finally struck back, because really it has gone too far. I remember that in the 90s, actually in the late 80s, in the villages around Baramulla, you would suddenly see these young men in jeans and, sneakers and speaking English and not speaking Kashmiri. That's how long this has been going on. And we have really, in my view, not paid attention. We did nothing after Chatti Singhpura. We did nothing after what happened in Bombay. And then we had our Prime Minister admitting in Sharm el Sheikh to something we haven't been doing enough, that we were actually, making trouble in Balochistan. And after that, when I went to Pakistan, I remember them saying, okay, yes, we have these groups, but you're messing around in Balochistan. And we haven't been doing enough, actually, to support the Balochis, who have had a terrible time in Pakistan and who actually have never thought of themselves as Pakistani. So, after this, I'm happy that we've done this, and I really hope we're going to do more. And, what more can I say? I'm really proud of of what's happened today.
Yeah. Tavleen, I think everybody shares your sentiment about seeing what's happened and getting at the basis of the Lashkar and the Jaish. But it's not over. It's not a strike and, it's over. Pakistan is going to hit back. There are going to be costs to pay. Public opinion has rightfully been demanding military action, and that action has come. But 9 civilians, that's the last figure we have, on our side have been killed in Pakistan firing. We are entering a period of prolonged conflict, if you don't want to call it a war with Pakistan, active conflict. And I think we have to be sensitized or sensitizing our people to that.
Yeah, I just want to know one thing. Do you know if they've actually brought down 5 of our fighters?
India has rubbished that as fake news and said that it's propaganda. So that's what we are going to continue to emphasize.
On the Indian side, there are defense analysts who say the 2 aircraft fell, and that one of them had the engine of a Rafale. Is that true or not?
Everything that I have been told is that this is absolute fake news. So till we have an official account from the Indian military, I would completely look at that as Pakistan propaganda, because among the crazy claims that Pakistan has been making all morning also includes, oh, we have hit Srinagar, oh, we've hit this brigade headquarter and that brigade headquarter. So I just want General Dua to come in. I know that there have been these rumors that Pakistan has been trying to push, and in this moment of national security, we're going to go specifically by what.
Let me finish my point.
Yeah, sorry.
What I wanted to say was, we must take the moral high ground on this. So we should not be reducing ourselves to Pakistan's level and lying or spreading propaganda. If this has happened, we should admit it. And as for prolonged conflict, we have a very good army. We have very good weapons. We should be able to, sustain that. What I really would like to see is India on the high ground. India not coming down to the level of spreading lies and propaganda. So if they have, destroyed some of our fighters, we should admit that. That's one point I want to make. The other thing that I want to say is that now that we are, in a full conflict almost, we should also really try to get Pakistan to realize that Kashmir is not going anywhere. That it's, I mean, it's something that this jugular vein kind of nonsense, they have to get over it. They know when you talk to Pakistanis, one to one, if they're friends of yours, they will tell you that they know Kashmir is not going anywhere. So if there's ever going to be peace between us, we have to first we have to work not just with weapons, but with words. We've got to use our soft power as well.
Right. While you were speaking, I was looking at a PIB fact check that has been put up, and I'm just going to ask my producer to bring it up on our screen, which is actually saying, beware of old images shared by pro-Pakistan handles. An old image showing a crashed aircraft is being circulated with the claim that Pakistan shot down a jet. So I just want to say that. Can we have it up on our screen? I'm sure it'll be up in just a second. So as far as I'm concerned, that is the official word on those reports from the government, Tavleen, which we're sharing on our screen, that Pakistan is circulating old images, and in this moment we are going by what the military is saying to us on record. That is an official response on the government website saying those old images are being circulated. General Dua, let's bring you in on the larger picture. What happens now? What happens next? You mentioned, sir, that we are not seeking escalation, that we have avoided military installations and civilians, but Pakistan will seek to retaliate in some form. And the military will be preparing defensively for that.
Right. Before I answer your question, Barkha, allow me a moment to talk about this issue of what Tavleen raised, and you spoke about the fact check.
Yeah.
From now on, we have to expect more of this. There will be false narratives spewed from both sides. It will happen. I also saw a report, very frankly, saying that one JF-17 has been down. Somebody's put out a photograph. So that will happen from both the sides. My own account handle has been, I won't say it's hacked, but there is another account which says now it talks about I've got a duplicate account on Twitter, and which says that I'm spewing out and giving out false propaganda. It's happening, right? I've reported that. I disagree slightly with Tavleen. I don't know whether she meant this, but I would. Now is the time to engage in that battle of mind space. We can't go away from it, because that is the fact here. For example, when I was talking about the fact that perhaps the time has come that we create more disenchantment about the military in the Pakistani mindset. So those are the kind of things that which will happen only with this kind of a perception management. I just leave it there. Getting back to your question of what could we expect. Now, we've already started that, in the sense we've already seen some strikes across the LOC. That will happen. We should expect some more military targets, because there are no other targets. I mean, either they're killing civilians or they have to target military installations on our side. So that we should expect. We are taking all the defensive measures, but I think what can happen also. Now, I'm a retired man. I'm just giving my view. Is that we can be a little more aggressive about such things. Aggressive defense, as it is called, because we also need to not only sort of keep taking defensive measures. That we must, but in addition to that, if we have more strikes like this, keeping the escalatory matrix in mind, we should also have that threat, and if need be, carry out that threat at some selected terrorist hideouts again. That's a possibility. And I would like to end by saying, at the end of it, I think India would also like to beware of the escalatory matrix. We cannot behave irrational like Pakistan. Today, India, as a responsible nation and an ascending power, this morning's news, actually, I read that India has jumped. Now, this is not making news because of the present thing, what is happening, is that India has today jumped to the fourth position as a fourth largest economy. So, as an ascending power, we also don't want to get into a situation that halts our growth. That doesn't have to distract us detract us from doing what we need to do.
Yeah, but General Dua, sorry, Tavleen, you wanted to come in there. I was just going to make the point that that all depends now on how Pakistan seeks to retaliate, right? What is
Yes.
it going to hit? What does it do next? We don't know. We simply do not know. The LOC, yes, 9 civilians are reported to have lost their lives in that artillery firing. But what do they do that they define as a military response? How much this escalates, I think, would depend on that. Tavleen, you were wanting to make a point.
Yeah, General Saab, I think you misunderstood me. I am actually saying what you just said, which is we need to use our soft power to actually correct the narrative, the false propaganda that Pakistan's spreading. That is what I said. That's what you're repeating. That we have to do that. This is not just a war that can be fought by, killing off just a few terrorists. This has to be fought. And certainly, if you see the Western media, it would annoy you enormously, because
Absolutely.
the Western media is making it sound as though, I mean, even not just the Western media, the American president, they've been fighting for ages, I mean, so what? They've been fighting for a few centuries, he said. We have to use our strengths in the soft power business as well to correct this narrative. If the American president doesn't know that Pakistan hasn't been around for centuries and that this is a fight, first he said decades, then he said centuries. This is not true. There's been no Pakistan. Secondly, we've never claimed Kashmir as part of our country for the longest time. It was a great center of the Shaivism. The first history book almost was written in Kashmir. We keep behaving. We have become victims of the narrative that has been spread by Pakistan, which is we say, oh, yes, it's a Muslim majority thing. And that's how the Western media is doing it. So what I'm trying to say is that now that we are really in a state of war, we have to use our soft power to at least convince the Western media that we are the victims in this and the responsible country of the two. When it comes to Osama bin Laden, the West has a different approach, and when it comes to India, we are just two squabbling countries. I think we have to correct that.
I couldn't agree with you more. This equivalence to present this as a military exchange. Oh, India and Pakistan are fighting. India and Pakistan are not fighting. India has responded to an egregious act of terror, a culmination of several such acts where terrorists who do this are basically assets of the Pakistan army. And I do not understand how in a week when the Americans have bombed the Houthis and Israel does whatever it wants to in Gaza, they can lecture to us on restraint. It is just galling. It makes my blood boil.
Yeah.
General Dua, I want to talk about, what happens from here onwards. I think Tavleen makes the important point that Trump made a pretty idiotic comment, but, it was a vague, general sort of comment. How concerned do we have to be with the fact that China is rhetorically supporting Pakistan? Turkey is sending naval ships there. Russia has come out very clearly in our support. The Americans, whatever they may say overtly, are not likely to tie our hands. But, they will not want this to go further. They will not want this to go much further, right? How do you see this playing out?
In my view, Pakistan needs to do something for their, should I say, professional pride, military pride, for their domestic audience. They have to do something. They've already started. How much they want to escalate or how much further they can go will also depend, and I know I'm repeating a bit, being a little repetitive, it will also depend on how the West wants to control it, meaning USA, essentially. How much they want to control. Because, I mean, if you take your mind back, now we talk of pragmatism, you take your mind back to Kargil. The world is watching very anxiously when two nuclear neighbors are in a beginning of a spiraling conflict. I mean, it can escalate. It can even spiral out of control. When that happens, there will be pressure on both of us, perhaps both the countries, from the West, from the US. You've already spoken about China. China just made, I don't think China is pushing one way or the other a little more than the comments that they've made. Turkey is the only other example, but there are many countries who actually supported India as well. So
by the way, the Chinese ambassador is at the foreign ministry as we speak, being briefed on Operation Sindoor. I just wanted to make that point, but go ahead. Yeah.
So now, when they apply pressure, in that they have a better hold. The West has a better hold on Pakistan because Pakistan now seeks a monetary dole every month for its foreign debt, and that's something that Pakistan can't go away from. And so I think they will raise the ante. I only hope they don't try to act irrational, because when they start talking about the nuclear card and things like that, we need to watch that very carefully. But I think that is Indian national resolve, as well as military capability wise, we are prepared for anything that Pakistan brings on.
Yeah, I just want to play out that statement by Donald Trump. It was so, I don't know what to call it. It was so banal. I'm just going to play that out, and then we can talk a little bit about how we expect geopolitics to play out from here on. Take a look.
Any questions for Steve? No, it's a shame. We just heard about it just as we were walking in the doors of the Oval. Just heard about it. I guess people knew something was going to happen based on a little bit of the past. They've been fighting for a long time. You know, they've been fighting for many, many decades and centuries, actually, if you really think about it. No, I just hope it ends very quickly. Any questions for Steve?
So, that is what Tavleen was saying there, Dua. How concerned should we be about the American non-response? And by the way, I should say that Pakistan tried to distort that statement when he said it's a real shame. He didn't mean that it's a real shame that India hit Pakistan, but he saw it as a fight. He was like, oh, these countries are fighting. They've been fighting forever. Oh, I hope it doesn't escalate. And the Pakistan media immediately picked it up as some sort of condemnation. Marco Rubio's comment later clarified that he was monitoring the situation. Geopolitically, what should we be, both militarily and geopolitically? First to you and to Tavleen, where do we go from here? Could other fronts open up? We have hit them in Pakistan, Punjab. Could they seek to open a front in Punjab, right? There are many things that could happen. They may expand the theater of conflict well beyond Jammu and Kashmir. General Dua first and then Tavleen.
So let's begin with President Trump's remarks first. President Trump is known to make remarks off the cuff. They're not very considered statements, So we don't need to read too much into that. Even if Pakistan tried to make some capital out of it, which was rubbish, rightly. So let's leave it at that. But how the United States responds to this is the key. I'm differentiating that from President's remarks. So that is something that I've already spoken about, that we need to see how they want to, curb Pakistan's initiative. Geopolitically, I think we've had so many countries in the past 2 weeks, not only giving statements, but the leaders of countries called up Prime Minister Modi. There was a list of that. I think you were also talking once and you read out those lists. There was a list of those. What is happening is that those leaders are calling out, called the Prime Minister and expressed solidarity after he made that speech in Bihar, where he suddenly switched to English and said that we will go and hit the terror ecosystem, and we will hit the terrorists and also the terror ecosystem across the border. Now, what I'm trying to get at is that no country can come out openly and say that, no, we are with you, you've done the right thing. But the world is getting fed up. World is losing appetite for terror. That Pakistan is an epicenter of terror. terrorism has been recognized by the world completely. They have very few real friends or supporters, if any. And I think the world, the West will try to curb their initiative beyond a point. That is my reading of how it will play out geopolitically.
By the way, the images we see on the screen, sorry, General Dua, the audio I know disturbed you a bit. Those are images of villages being evacuated from forward areas to areas that are further away from the line of control and the international border. Um, we now know that permanent and non-permanent members of the United Nations Security Council were briefed by the Ministry of External Affairs. The Chinese ambassador has been briefed. The Russian ambassador has been briefed. So there's going to be a lot of global outreach. Trump sounds banal, Tavleen, but I think they're not soft on Pakistan in the way the Biden administration was, nor are they in a situation in Afghanistan where they need Pakistan. So on both counts, they may say, "Oh, let this not become a war," but they're not likely to tie our hands.
Yeah, no, I think that we have failed. Our officials have failed to brief the American president adequately. I mean, you can't, General Saab, you can't dismiss what the president of America says. He's the commander-in-chief. He's going to decide, and he's a kind of he takes roads that other presidents have not taken. In the past, in Kargil and before, there was actual American intervention to stop the war. This time we can't rely on this, right? Secondly, don't discount China. China and Pakistan are on the same team. And without, 80% of the arms of Pakistan come from China. And the Chinese know perfectly well what's been going on. They're not interested in peace in Balochistan because they're building a huge port in Gwadar, or they built one. And, the China and that whole belt and road business, Pakistan is essential to the Chinese in the way that it once was to the Americans when they were fighting in Afghanistan. So please, geopolitically, we have to make a stronger case for what we're doing. And all this business of, the world recognizes this, don't buy the Indian propaganda on that, okay?
But Tavleen, why do we care about the world? I mean, did Israel seek world opinion before they did what they did? The Americans, Trump said he would end war, and he's bombing the Houthis.
Yeah, no, but we need, when we talk about geopolitical situations, we have to consider that the geopolitical climate around us is something that we have to make a case for, that, that we are fighting not just terrorism in Pakistan, but the Chinese are the pillar of strength of Pakistan at the moment is China. And I think that if we made our case better with the Americans, we would get more support. I actually think that that's been a failure.
Right. It's also that Trump is not the most stable aware of world leaders to be able to brief. But sure, how the Americans react both on and off camera is going to be critical in whether Pakistan will in fact be contained. General Dua, the point you seem to be making is that Pakistan itself may not have the appetite for too much escalation. The videos you see on your screen, by the way, are images released by the army of the bases that were struck. 10 members of Masood Azhar's family have been eliminated, 70 terrorists killed, 24 missile strikes. So just returning for a moment to the military situation on the ground, are you expecting something token in the way that it happened after Balakot? But this is not Balakot. We have gone in hard and deep. And, it's just that for them, their choices are limited because, what are the targets that they could look at? And, maybe they do a cosmetic strike. Maybe the Americans, notwithstanding what Trump says on camera, prevail on them. Hey, listen, sit down. You need our money. You need our weapons. Sit down. We don't know. Militarily, how do you see this playing out from here, General Dua?
So, Barkha, like we discussed earlier, I see that they will strike somewhere, like I said earlier. And military targets are the only targets they have in India across their borders. So they will strike somewhere. how deep and how effectively they strike is what matters. I myself I spoke about the fact that sometimes Pakistan is known to be irrational when it comes to India. We need to take care of that, and that is where I said we need to create that perception. We have to make the Pakistan military unpopular. There is a sentiment like that, and we need to play upon that. And
But how do we do that? Because Munir is hoping for precisely the opposite. Munir is
yes,
hoping that an unpopular Pakistan army chief gets a last hurrah from this situation.
Yeah.
yes, but what is happening with the water situation is what needs to be what we need to factor in.
Yeah.
What is happening with the situation in water is the biggest thing that has hit Pakistan population. It is, and the sentiment. The day this was announced, I think their Sensex has crashed 3,000 or 4,000 points. So that is the kind of sentiment that it is evoked. That is something that we need to play on. I know that we cannot turn off a tap on a day that we suddenly say, but then we've just shown with the combination of what happened in Bagliar and Salal put together, we actually made the Chinar riverbed dry for some time. I know we can't hold on for long, but it is the sentiment that matters. We need to play on their fears more. And that's the sort of, I am not denying the fact that they will still want to attack somewhere. They will want to make a more substantive strike, and they perhaps will. We need to be prepared for that. And for that, I also said my suggestion is, and I guess we will not only be defensive, we will also perhaps be offensive if required. So that's the kind of scenario that we expect to play. And I
So
would like to,
in other words, India may have to strike again. Former Army Chief Manoj Naravne had a
yes,
cryptic tweet. He said, "Picture abhi baki hai." Now, that could mean two things. It could either mean that India's military plan is not yet fully executed, or it could mean that depending on how Pakistan reacts, India will have to strike again.
yes, sometimes to stop an offense, you need to launch a riposte somewhere else rather than only being defensive at a place. I mean, that's what we've done, in all these strikes. Earlier, before 2016, we were always defensive whenever they send their bad actions, whenever they send their terrorists or their strikes on borders and mutilated our bodies and went back. We were only defensive. But so that kind of a thing, that kind of aggressive defense needs to be put in motion again. I think I've also been misunderstood, Tavleen. I did not say that we need to take our case to the world a little better than we do now. I am not trying to say that. I was only trying to say I was talking about the fact that when I read China's statement, it is not out and out support of Pakistan, which I expected. It says you need to resolve it together. I mean, that's what they want to say as a rising power. They want to be a superpower in the world, the lone superpower. So they also have to make some responsible statements about their involvement in Pakistan. We understand their friendship is higher than Himalayas and all that stuff. We do understand. But there is potential, like Barkha, you mentioned, there is potential of them trying to foment trouble in Punjab. They can also open fronts. Bangladesh is a big concern for us today. They've already, the Pakistan ISI has made inroads into in Bangladesh. Look at the statement that came out of Bangladesh, which retired Major General was saying that we will have to take 7 northeastern states. I mean, absurd that it may be, but then it also is reflective of some kind of sentiment that exists in Bangladesh. So that is something that Pakistan can play on. So we need to guard. We need to be on our guard on all these fronts and more, potential spots like this.
Yeah, that's a really important point about Bangladesh, the reconnection between the two militaries, between Bangladesh under Yunus and the Pakistan military after decades. Before I take final comments looking back and ahead, I want to play out Omar Abdullah. He is speaking, the Chief Minister of Jammu and Kashmir. He, by the way, evidently was briefed by Prime Minister. He had a one-on-one meeting before these strikes took place. Let's take a look at what he said.
क्लैशेस दोनों तरफ से नहीं हुई। शुरुआत पहलगाम में हुआ, जहां हमारे 26 बेगुनाह लोग जिस तरह उनको मारा गया, वो हम अभी भूले नहीं। उसी वक्त मरकजी हुकूमत ने कहा था कि इसका हम जवाब दे देंगे और अपने तरीके से दे देंगे। जवाब देने का तरीका यही था कि पाकिस्तान में कोई सिविलियन या कोई मिलिट्री जगह नहीं, सिर्फ वो जगह जो सब लोग जानते हैं वहाँ यही इदारे काम करते हैं जिन्होंने पिछले 30-35 साल जम्मू कश्मीर में तबाही और बर्बादी फैलाई है, उन्हें निशाना बनाया गया, उसके अलावा कुछ नहीं। लेकिन उसके बाद लगातार कुछ इलाकों में जो पार के तरफ से बमबारी की गई, उसमें तो सीधा सीधा हमारे सिविलियन जो हैं वो टारगेट हुए। शुरुआत वहां से हुई, शुरुआत यहाँ से नहीं हुई। अगर पहलगाम में लोगों को इस तरह मारा नहीं गया होता, ये दिन नहीं आता। हम बड़े आराम से रह रहे थे। यहाँ जम्मू कश्मीर के अंदरूनी हालात भी ठीक थे, टूरिज्म का दबदबाव चल रहा था, एलओसी पे सीज फायर जो है वो कायम था, एलओसी के सीज फायर को कोई नुकसान नहीं। लेकिन ये हमारे बने हुए हालात नहीं हैं। हमने पहलगाम में जो हुआ उसका हमें एक जवाब देना था। लेकिन अब पाकिस्तान तक है कि वो इसको कितना उछालना चाहते हैं। हम में से कोई जंग नहीं चाहता। हम लोग जो खासकर जम्मू कश्मीर में रहते हैं, क्योंकि अक्सर बेशतर हमने देखा है, चाहे वो इससे पहले जो वार हुए हो या करगिल हुआ हो, वो कहीं ना कहीं जम्मू कश्मीर को ही हिट कर जाता है। हम तो चाहेंगे कि हालात जो है वो दोबारा ठीक बने, लेकिन उसके लिए पहले हमारे जो पड़ोसी मुल्क है उनको अपनी बंदूकें शांत करनी होंगी। यहाँ से फिर बंदूक चलेगी नहीं।
First, Pakistan has to silence their guns. They started it. They have to put their guns down. Let's take final comments. Tavleen, you started by saying how happy you were that we were finally, we have finally hit back. It's likely that the Pakistan military, going back to your own trip to Murid K, has already taken Masood Azhar and Hafiz Saeed into protection. It is likely that after a few weeks, they will surface and make some outrageous provocation. It is likely that after a few weeks, another, God forbid, terror strike will be attempted to make some sort of point that, oh, see, we're still around. But I do think that India has shown great resolve in this moment. It really has. I can't hear Tavleen.
Yeah, please don't make the mistake of thinking that Hafiz Saeed and Masood Azhar and that Lashkar and Jaish Mohammed are not part of the Pakistan army. We are fighting the Pakistan army. They're just using tactics that we have not responded to or learned how to deal with. But we're fighting the Pakistani army. This is just war by another name, and it's a cowardly, evil war. And as I'll say again, I'm very proud that we've responded, because our failure to respond in the past has been seen as weakness.
I couldn't agree with you more that the Lashkar and the Jaish are simply assets of the Pakistan army. General Dua, last word to you, if we can get you in. This is a moment to be proud of, but this is also a moment when, as a country, we have to realize that every time Pakistan does this, we may have to go higher on the escalatory ladder. And we are in for a long, long war with Pakistan. I mean, unless Pakistan unravels or it disintegrates or world opinion prevails and, or the people of Pakistan rise up and revolt as the people of Baluchistan have. The problem with asymmetric warfare, it is not a battleground where two armies are fighting. It is, as Tavleen said, cowardly. You send in terrorists through jungles, indoctrinated, radicalized jihadists with guns, and you have what happened in Pahalgam. And no professional army can guarantee that no terror attack will take place ever again. No professional army in the world can guarantee that, because that's the nature of proxy warfare. General Dua.
Yes, Barkha. No one can guarantee that terror attacks won't take place. It is not to say that from now onwards there won't be terrorists. There are terrorists in J&K. There will be terror attacks here and there. We are talking of a certain threshold. Every professional army in the world, that is why terrorism is so successful across the world. And
Yeah.
so every professional army in the world, every country wants to keep, wherever there is terrorist issue, terrorism is a problem, we want to keep it under a certain threshold where life can go on normally, where we can prosecute development and things like that. At every terror attack, we cannot strike across. But what we've done this time is, when there was a high-profile terror attack, all these 3 times, Uri, Pulwama, Pathankot was just before Uri, and now Pahalgam, we've struck across. This time, far deeper, far more meaningful and significant targets. What we do to when Pakistan strikes here, amongst other things, just now got a cue from what you were talking, both of you were talking, is Pakistan military is the main thing. When Tavleen said that they are part of the military, so to say. I mean, Pakistan establishment is the military, is their establishment. And another thing that comes to mind, and we were discussing on a different channel earlier yesterday, there are other targets. Pakistan military has many commercial interests. They have huge commercial interests. Those are other targets that can be thought of, because we also have to strike where it hurts them, the Pakistan military, in addition to the terror networks. Time alone will tell as to how we plan things and how we go ahead. But what India has shown today, as in the past, this time even bolder, we have gone and actually struck those terror targets. I'm not saying that they will not be resurrected. I'm not saying that leadership will not come back again. That will happen. But as you started by saying, 10 family members of the leader being killed. So that's how we put the squeeze on the terror networks.
Absolutely. And it is a day to stand with India's armed forces. It is the first time since 1971 that a tri-service operation has been unleashed against terror bases inside Pakistan. We will say thank you at this point to Tavleen Singh, to General Dua, the general who led the surgical strikes in the aftermath of the terror attacks in Uri in 2016.